Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor of Cars Jubilee, today in a 2021 Nissan Leaf. Now you might be wondering, why am I in a Nissan Leaf? Well, we finally got our Ioniq 5 into service at Burns Hyundai in Cherry Hill. And they originally had told us, hey, we'll try to get you in a loaner. If not, we'll get you into an enterprise rental car. And that's exactly what happened. They set us up with a rental. And actually, the funny thing is, when Enterprise called me, they said, hey, is there any kind of car you want? And then I said, well, I'm actually bringing in an EV for service. Do you guys have any EVs? And the guy said, yeah, actually, we have a Nissan Leaf on the lot. And I said, yeah, let's go for it. And that's why I'm in a Nissan Leaf. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have asked what other cars they had, because as I was leaving, I saw a Jeep Wagoneer. You know, beautiful white, leather interior, 3-row Jeep Wagoneer. And now I'm kind of like, should I have gone for that one instead? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. But in any case, I actually am very excited to be in this Nissan Leaf because I've never been in a Nissan Leaf. My very first time is right here, right now. In fact, it's my very first non-Tesla and non-Hyundai platform EV. And in that sense, I'm going to be brutally honest and say that if it weren't for the Ioniq 5 and the GV60, if you'd asked me a year ago, would I be interested in renting a Nissan Leaf? I would have said no. Because on paper, I just wasn't interested. This thing didn't have very much power. I didn't really realize all the benefits of owning an electric car. So at the time, I just would have said, nah, not interested. But after having owned an Ioniq 5 and the GV60, now I'm pretty much interested in every EV out there. It doesn't matter if it's fast, it doesn't matter if it's slow, it doesn't matter if it costs $20,000, $30,000. At this point, I'm a car enthusiast, and now I'm an EV enthusiast as well, so any car is interesting to me. So let's dive into my first impressions with a 2021 Nissan Leaf. So this one, provided by Enterprise, actually has 13,000 miles on it, so it's been around the block. But the first thing that I'm noticing is the quietness. It's actually a pretty quiet car. I don't hear any shakes or rattles. I'm going about 45 miles an hour right now, and I'm not hearing much. It's not quite on the level of my Ioniq 5, definitely not as quiet as my GV60, but I'd say it's pretty close to the Ioniq 5, at least going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour right now. I mean, I can say for sure it's much quieter than the Tesla Model Y that we had as a rental for a week. This Nissan Leaf, compared to that Model Y, it's much quieter on the inside, and there's no shakes, no squeaks, no rattles that I'm hearing at all. All right, we got a little bit of road to overpass a truck. Let's take it out of eco mode, and let's see what we got. Oh, that's not bad. That's actually not bad. Let's try it again. I'm going around 45 miles an hour now. And that's really not that bad. That's some tire squeal I'm getting out of there. Yeah. So definitely front wheel drive. This thing actually, I think in around the city, around town driving, it's got plenty of power. If you're used to pretty much mainstream vehicles like a Honda CR-V or a Toyota Corolla, a Nissan Rogue, this thing is gonna fuel quick, surprisingly so. Wow, just passed an Ioniq 5, a limited trim one. That's probably the first, maybe the second time I've seen a limited trim out in the wild. I think it was a digital teal. I look really nice. Sorry, back to this thing though. The acceleration is really surprising. The flip side is, I believe this car is front wheel drive, so there is torque steer. Let me try to illustrate that here. Yeah, traction is blinking at me. Definitely This thing's got apparently too much power for the front wheels. So you can definitely have some fun with this car. That's surprising. Wow, that brake feel. I do not like this brake pedal, I can tell you that much. All right, let's try another braking maneuver with the brake pedal. Wow, yeah, I do not like the brake pedal feel at all. The travel is super short. I've never complained about a brake pedal in my life in a car. So this is the very first time. And I finally get it. The tuning or the setup for this brake pedal is just weird. There is not enough brake pedal travel. So that makes it difficult to bring the car to a smooth stop if you have to use a brake pedal. And then there's the actual feel of the brake pedal. It's super springy. There's a really weird resistance or reboundy feel to it, where as soon as you're pressing down on it, it feels like it's fighting you to push your foot back up. And then once you actually do press down on it, it feels like the brakes aren't working. I'm barely getting any braking for how much effort I'm putting into the brake pedal. One of the first things I noticed after climbing in was the temperature controls. The climate system actually has dedicated hard buttons, which I think is a plus. The issue is the actual reading, the number that you would see for what temperature it is actually buried in the infotainment screen. So as soon as I hopped in the car, the heat was blasting and I wanted to change the temperature, so I was pressing the blue arrow, but then I was looking around and I'm like, what am I changing the temperature to? I have no idea, because the screen wasn't loading fast enough. The car was still starting and it was going through the typical, startup process. And I was waiting and I was waiting and I was waiting and I was thinking, shoot, is there somewhere else I should be looking? Because it's still not showing a temperature reading. And then I'd say probably around the 30, almost 45 second mark, finally I saw a temperature reading. I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. Got it. Waiting 30 or 45 seconds to figure out what temperature your car is set to for climate control. That could be a little annoying each time you start up the car. One of the things I am noticing right off the bat is kind of the bare bones or the more budget nature of this car. I don't know the exact price. I'm going to look that up when I get back home and I'll post it here. But this definitely feels like a cheaper car. And there's nothing wrong with that. If this is around a $30,000 car, I think it makes sense. Everything here on a surface level matches what I would expect from a car in that price range. It doesn't look premium, but that's not what this car is aimed at. This is a more mainstream, more affordable EV. And I think on that end, it should check most of those boxes that you would expect. And that completes our first drive. So let me just give you some final thoughts. What impressed me the most? Well, the interior ride quality. It's really quiet in here. Not quite Ioniq 5 levels, but I would say at least on local road driving, it was pretty close. This is a very quiet interior. In city driving, from stoplight to stoplight, stop sign to stop sign, I felt like I was constantly chirping the tires, engaging the traction control, because the front tires here just can't handle the power if I get aggressive with it. That's kind of cool, that's kind of funny, but the truth is, if you're driving in the city, this thing actually has plenty of power. And then what are some things that I didn't like? Well, I mentioned the climate control. The very first thing I tried to do when I climbed in was I tried to change the temperature because the heat was blasting. I was just pressing it willy-nilly and thinking, maybe it's not working because I don't see a number changing anywhere. And then I had to wait 30 seconds, maybe even 45 seconds before finally the infotainment screen had finished loading and I could see a temperature listed on the top left corner. And then the weird thing is, if you leave it alone for a couple seconds, the temperature disappears. So at that point, you have no idea what temperature you've set the cabin for. But by far, the worst thing that I've felt so far in this car has to be the physical brake pedal. the amount of force that I'm putting into that brake pedal just doesn't match the amount of braking that I'm getting. It felt like the car wasn't slowing down, but my foot was like, ugh. It was doing a lot of work. So in that aspect, yeah, really, really unsettling brake pedal feel, especially if you're not used to it. Could I get used to it? Possibly, but I gotta say that's something that I don't like, at least from a first impression. So anyways, I think that wraps up our first drive impressions. I'm pretty sure I'll have at least another 2 or 3 days with it to kind of check it out, explore it. I'll definitely be checking out the back seat and the trunk space and all that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed my first drive with the Nissan Leaf. And hopefully I'll catch you guys again if I do a Nissan Leaf versus Ioniq 5 head-to-head. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.